The twin suns of Vornia burned in the sky, one red and one white, their combined light covering the planet in a constant shimmer of heat. The land stretched far and wide, full of cracks and fading colors. Once this planet had been rich and alive, filled with green forests and deep blue rivers. Now it looked tired. The soil had turned dry. The air was heavy with dust that never seemed to settle. The people of Vornia had always been peaceful. They loved art, song, and knowledge. They built tall cities with shining towers and floating gardens. Their children learned to paint before they learned to read. They valued harmony more than war, peace more than pride. For thousands of cycles, this worked well for them. But when the suns began to grow hotter, everything started to fall apart. At first, the change came slowly. Summers became longer, and storms began to dry up the lakes. Crops failed, animals disappeared, and small towns were left behind in the rising heat. Scientists worked day and night to find solutions. They built energy shields to block the worst rays and created machines to clean the air. For a time, they believed they could fix their world. Then the energy cores began to fail. The cores were ancient. It's built by their ancestors long ago, and no one alive fully understood how they worked. The scientists tried to repair them, but each time one was fixed, another broke. Soon, entire cities went dark. Food production stopped. The once proud people began to fear the future. In the grand city of Arian, the capital of Vornia, the council gathered. 12 leaders stood around a wide circular table made of white crystal. Each one carried the same look of worry. At the center sat Mayen, the eldest and most respected among them. His face was lined with age and burden. He rose from his seat and looked around the table. "Friends," he began, his voice soft but steady, "our world is fading. The suns burn stronger each season. Our machines cannot hold. Our energy cores die one by one. If we do nothing, our people will not see another generation." The room stayed silent. No one dared to speak. Men continued. "We have searched every archive, every ancient code. There is no solution left within our reach. Our ships cannot travel beyond our star system. Our fuel is running out. We cannot save ourselves." A young counselor named Ria spoke up. "Then what do we do, Mayen?" "Surrender to the end." Mayen looked at her sadly. "There is one thing we have not yet tried. We can send a message to the stars. A call for help." The room filled with whispers. The idea sounded desperate, even foolish. The galaxy was vast. The chances of someone hearing their signal were small. Even if someone did, would they care about a dying world on the edge of nowhere? A scientist named Toron shook his head. "No one will come. The nearest trade routes are light years away. The Union worlds care only for their own profit. And even if they hear us, they will not risk their fleets for strangers." Ria clenched her hands. "Still, what choice do we have? If there is even a small chance that someone hears us, it is better than silence." Mayen nodded slowly. "Then we will send it. A message to anyone who might be listening. A cry across the stars." That night, the engineers began their work. The last remaining power core in Arion was directed toward the deep space transmitter, a massive tower at the edge of the city. It was a relic from a forgotten age, rarely used. Now, it became their final hope. Aaron, a young technician, climbed the metal stairs of the tower as the suns began to set. The sky turned orange and gold, then deep red. He looked out over the city. The once bright lights of Arion were now dim. Many buildings stood empty. Yet even in despair, the people still lived with quiet dignity. They shared what little food they had. They helped one another survive the heat. Inside the tower's control room, Aaron met his mentor, Mira. She was one of the oldest engineers left, her silver hair tied back neatly. Her hands were steady as she worked on the ancient console. "Are we ready?" Aaron asked. Mira nodded, almost. "The signal will be strong enough to travel far, but we do not know who might hear it. Do you think anyone will?" She paused before answering. "Hope is not built on what we think. It is built on what we try." When the suns finally dipped below the horizon, Mayan arrived at the tower with the rest of the council. The time had come. The old leader stood before the transmitter's glowing panel. His voice was recorded and coded into light waves that would cross the void. He spoke slowly, each word heavy with meaning. To any who hear this message, we are the people of Vornia. Our world is dying. Our resources are gone. We have no power to save ourselves. If you can hear us, we ask for help. We have nothing to offer but friendship and gratitude. Please do not let us fade alone. The transmission activated. A bright beam of energy shot into the sky, vanishing into the stars. The people below watched as the light rose higher and higher until it disappeared. Some wept quietly. Others prayed. For days after, the people waited. They repaired what they could. They rationed food. They worked on cooling machines that barely functioned. Each night they looked to the sky, hoping to see a ship, a light. Anything that proved their call had been heard. Weeks passed. Nothing came. The people began to lose faith. Some said the signal had failed. Others said no one cared. Even Mayan started to wonder if they had sent their message into empty space. Then, one quiet morning, something changed. Aaron was working at the observatory when the sensors picked up a strange reading. A small blip appeared on the screen, then another, and another. They were faint at first, like echoes, but they were moving fast. He frowned and adjusted the focus. "That cannot be right," he murmured. Mira looked over his shoulder. Her eyes widened. "Those are ships. Many ships. They are coming from deep space." Aaron felt his heart race. Could they be from the Union? "I do not think so," Mira said. "Their signatures are unknown. I have never seen energy patterns like these." Within hours, the entire council gathered again. The readings grew stronger. The ships were closing in on orbit. Their design did not match any known species. They were rough in shape, built from dark metal, their engines burning with a strange blue fire. Mayan stood at the balcony of the council hall, watching the sky. Tiny sparks of light moved across the horizon. The planet's defense systems were long broken, and their scanners struggled to get clear visuals. "Are they answering our message?" Rhea asked quietly. "We do not know," Mayan said. "Prepare a landing zone near the plains. If they mean peace, we must meet them. If they mean harm, we have nothing left to lose." The next day, the first of the ships descended. It came down through the clouds with a thunderous sound, its engines shaking the ground. Dust rose high into the air as it landed. The hull was scratched and uneven, as if it had seen many battles. From the ship's lower ramp, figures began to appear. They were tall and strong, their bodies covered in protective suits of thick material. Their helmets reflected the sunlight. When they removed them, the Vornians saw faces unlike their own skin, pale and rough, eyes sharp and expressions firm. The air on Vornia was thin, yet they breathed dizzily. Mayan stepped forward with 2 guards, though their weapons were ceremonial and offered no real defense. He raised his hand in greeting. "I am Mayan of Vornia. We sent the call." "Are you the ones who answered?" The lead figure stepped forward. She had short, dark hair and calm eyes. "I am Rena, captain of the Earthship Valor. We received your SOS. We are here to help." The Vornians exchanged confused looks. "Earth," Rhea repeated softly. "We have never heard of such a place." Rena smiled faintly. "It is far from here. A small planet, rough and wild. Some call it a death world." The word echoed among the Vornians. They had heard tales of worlds so hostile that life itself was a struggle every day. To meet people who lived on such a place seemed impossible. Rena looked at the damaged city around her. "Your world is hurting. We came as fast as we could. Tell us what you need." Men hesitated, still unsure if this was real. "We need water, food. Our power systems are dying. Our people are weak." Rena nodded. "Then that is where we start." Behind her, more humans stepped out of the ship, carrying heavy crates and machines. They moved with purpose, unbothered by the heat or the dust. One of them looked up at the burning suns and grinned. feels like home." For the first time in many years, the people of Vornia felt a spark of hope. Their message had been heard, and help had come not from the soft and distant worlds of the Union, but from a planet of survivors. They had called to the stars for rescue, and the Deathworlders had answered. The human ship stood like a dark giant on the dusty plains of Vornia. Its metal surface carried scratches and dents from countless journeys, but it looked strong and alive. The people of Vornia gathered at a safe distance, watching with wide eyes. They had never seen anything like it. The humans moved around the landing site with skill and confidence, setting up strange machines and unloading heavy containers. Every movement looked practiced, as if they had done this many times before. Mayen, leader of the Vornian Council, stood beside Rena, the human captain. He studied her closely. She was smaller than most of her crew, but there was a strength in her voice that made others listen. Her eyes were sharp and kind at the same time. She spoke with calm certainty, and every word carried weight. "You came from far away," Mayen said. "How did you find us so quickly?" Rena nodded. "Your signal was strong. It carried across sectors. Many ignored it, but humans do not ignore a call for help. We sent our fastest ship, even though the journey was hard." The way she said it made Mayen pause. "Hard?" he asked. She smiled lightly. "Every journey is hard when you come from Earth. Our planet teaches us that nothing worth doing is easy." Behind her, the human crew continued working. They opened a set of metal containers and pulled out tools that buzzed and hummed with power. A man named Tamaz and a woman named Isla were setting up what looked like a field generator. The device sparked once, then created a soft blue dome that shimmered faintly. The hot wind calmed around it. Mayen watched in awe. "What is that?" "Atmospheric stabilizer," Rena explained. "It will make the air easier to breathe and reduce heat in this zone. A temporary fix, but it will help your people rest." The Vornian guards exchanged amazed glances. Their own machines could not do anything like that anymore. Most of their technology was falling apart, and even their most skilled engineers could not repair the ancient systems. Soon, more humans began unloading containers of supplies. Metal sheets unfolded into shelters. Machines started digging small holes in the ground, pulling out hidden pockets of water. Children from the nearby town ran closer, curious and excited. Their parents tried to call them back, but the humans only smiled and waved. One of them gave a little girl a piece of sweet dried fruit from Earth. She tasted it and laughed. By the evening, a small human base was already standing near the landing site. It was rough but strong, built from simple materials and powered by portable reactors. The lights glowed warm against the red sand. Mira, the Vornian engineer who had helped send the SOS, came to study the machines. Her eyes widened as she walked through the camp. Everything was built with purpose. No extra decoration, only function. She noticed the scratches and burns on the tools and realized that these humans repaired things again and again instead of replacing them. "You use damaged tools," she said to Tomas, who was fixing a cooling unit. "You do not make new ones?" Tomas looked up and grinned. "If it works, it works. On Earth, we learn to make things last. Sometimes we have to fight storms, sometimes fire, sometimes our own mistakes. Nothing survives long if it cannot be fixed quickly." Mira thought about that for a moment. "You come from a very dangerous world, don't you?" Tomas nodded. "Yes, dangerous, but beautiful too. Every mountain and ocean tries to kill you, but you keep going because you love it. That is what makes us human." Later that night, Mayen invited Rena and her officers to the council hall. The hall was quiet and dimly lit. The walls were cracked from heat, but the ancient white crystal still glowed faintly. Rena sat at the long table with her translator device blinking softly. Mayen leaned forward. "Tell me more about your world. Why do you call it a death world?" Rena looked at him thoughtfully. "It is a word others gave us. When the first explorers from other species found Earth, they said it was too dangerous. They said no one should live there. But we did. We grew strong because of it. Every day there is a fight to live, but we do not give up. Our world shaped us." Ria, a younger council member asked. If it is so hard, why not leave it? Because it is home, Rena replied. And because we learned something important there. Life grows stronger when it struggles. Comfort makes you forget how to fight for tomorrow. The council listened in silence. These humans spoke with a kind of honesty that the Vornians were not used to. The Vornian people had long believed that peace and beauty were the highest goals. They had avoided danger, avoided war, and in doing so, they'd also forgotten how to face hardship. Rena noticed their quiet looks and said gently, "Your world is not lost. You only forgot how strong you are. We will help you remember." The next morning, the humans began their real work. They brought out machines that could scan soil and air. Isla, the scientist, showed Mira how to use one of the scanners. It projected colored lights across the ground and displayed data on a small screen. "Your soil still has life," Isla said. "It is just sleeping. With the right mix of nutrients and water, it can grow again." Mira's eyes filled with hope. "You can help us bring back the crops?" "We can show you how," Isla replied. "But you will need to work hard. We can give tools, but not miracles." And so they worked together. Humans and Vornians side by side in the hot plains. The humans taught them how to make simple greenhouses from local materials using sheets of metal and thin plastic. They planted seeds that could survive high heat and poor soil. They built filters from rock and cloth to clean the air. Aaron, the young technician, followed Rena everywhere asking questions. He wanted to learn how the human machines worked, how they created power from small reactors. Rena liked his curiosity and let him help. When a machine broke down during the second week, Aaron panicked. The power stabilizer stopped humming, and smoke rose from the wires. He called for Rena, but she only smiled. "Do not worry," she said. "We can fix it." She opened the casing and showed him how to reconnect the burned wires with metal clamps and melted resin. The repair looked rough, but when she turned the switch again, the machine came back to life. Aaron blinked. "It still works?" Rena nodded. "Perfection is for art. Survival is for life. Remember that." The words stayed in his mind. Days passed, and the humans continued to surprise the Vornians. When a sandstorm hit the plains, most of the Vornian workers ran for shelter. The humans did not. They grabbed ropes, anchored their tents, and guided others to safety. Rena herself helped pull a young boy from a collapsing shelter. The wind roared, and the dust filled the air. But not one human gave up. After the storm, the human camp was still standing. Many Vornian structures had fallen, but the humans helped rebuild them in hours. Mayen walked among the workers and watched silently as they lifted heavy beams and repaired roofs without rest. He turned to Mira. "They fight storms like we fight fear," he said softly. Myra nodded. "They are different, but maybe we need to be more like them." At night, the Vornians gathered near the human campfires. The humans told stories about Earth, about great forests where trees grew taller than towers, about deep oceans full of creatures that glowed in the dark, about cold lands covered in ice where people built homes of snow. The children listened with shining eyes. Aaron asked Tomas, "Why do you laugh when things are hard?" Tomas poked the fire with a stick. "Because if we do not laugh, we break. Laughter keeps the heart alive." The Vornian youth nodded slowly. He had never thought of strength in that way before. A week later, Mayen visited the site where humans and Vornians were testing a new energy generator. It was small, but powerful. When it powered up, the nearby water pumps came alive, pulling clear water from deep underground. The sight made the old leader's heart swell. For the first time in years, he felt hope return to his people. He turned to Rena and said, "You bring life back to our world. How can we repay this?" Rena shook her head. "We do not come for payment. We come because someone once helped us when we were lost. Now, we do the same. One day, you will help someone else." That evening, Mayen stood before the gathered crowd. Hundreds of Vornians had come to see the humans at work. He raised his voice so all could hear. "My people," he said, "our world was fading. We believed we were forgotten. But today, we learn that the stars still listen. The beings who came to us are from a world more dangerous than ours, yet they choose to share their strength. From them we learn that survival is not shameful and struggle is not failure. We will work with them. Together, we will make Vornia live again. The crowd cheered. Some raised their hands toward the human camp in gratitude. The humans smiled and waved back. As the sun set that night, the lights of the human camp shone brighter than ever. The air smelled of new soil. The sound of pumps filled the distance. Laughter spread across the plains. For the first time in generations, the stars above Vornia did not look cold or distant. They looked alive, as if watching over a new beginning. The morning sun rose over the plains of Vornia, spreading golden light across the fields that were slowly turning green again. A month had passed since the humans arrived. The world that once felt silent and hopeless now echoed with the sound of work and laughter. Machines hummed, drills buzzed, and people moved with energy that had been missing for years. The Deathworlders had brought more than technology. They had brought life. Aaron stood near the new greenhouse domes, wiping sweat from his forehead. The air was still hot, but not unbearable. The humans had taught them how to build shields that cooled small zones using simple power sources. Inside the domes, plants grew, some native to Vornia, others from Earth. Seeing green leaves again made the Vornian workers smile. Rena walked through the fields with Myra beside her. They stopped to watch a group of children carrying water to the plants. They learn quickly, Rena said. Mira nodded. Our people forgot how to work with their hands. We relied too much on machines that we could not fix. You reminded us what effort means, Rena smiled. Effort keeps a world alive. Even when the tools fail, hands still work. As they walked, Rena noticed a team of young engineers trying to connect a damaged energy cable. The humans had taught them basic repair skills. One of the humans, Tomas, was helping them. He guided them with patience, showing them how to twist and seal wires with melted resin. Aaron joined them and worked with focus. When the system powered on and the lights glowed again, the group cheered. Tomas clapped his hands. See? Nothing impossible. Just patience and courage. Aaron smiled proudly. You make it look easy. Tomas shook his head. Nothing is easy. We just do it anyway. Later that day, the Council of Vornia gathered again to discuss the growing partnership with the humans. The meeting hall was brighter than before. Energy was returning to the city. Mayen sat at the center, and Rena stood beside him. Your people have done much for us, Mayen said. You gave us tools and hope. But I must ask, why risk your lives to help strangers? Rena looked at him thoughtfully. Because once, long ago, we were like you. Our world almost destroyed itself. Wars, storms, hunger. Many thought we would not survive. But we learned that no one saves you unless you save yourself first. Now we help others because we understand what it means to lose everything. The hall stayed silent for a moment. Her words carried weight. Mayen said, You speak of struggle as if it gives strength. But our people fear struggle. We have avoided it for centuries. Rena nodded. That is why your world grew soft. Peace is good, but peace without effort is like a tree without roots. It falls with the first wind. The council members exchanged looks. Rena's words were harsh but true. Even Mayen could not deny them. After the meeting, Rena walked outside and found Aaron studying a map of the planet. He looked deep in thought. Captain, he said, I want to ask something. Why do humans always push forward? Even when things are hard, you keep moving. Rena looked up at the burning sky. Because we have no choice. On Earth, everything fights you. The weather, the land, even the air sometimes. If you stop, you die. So we move, we build, we adapt. It is not bravery. It is habit. Aaron nodded slowly. Maybe we must learn that habit too. That evening, a group of Vornians and humans shared dinner together under a cooling dome. The humans cooked food from earth breads, dried meats, and a soup made from their emergency rations. The smell filled the air. The Vornians added fruits and herbs from their remaining gardens. Everyone laughed as they traded stories. Isla told the children about animals from Earth: wolves, bears, and eagles. The children listened with wonder. Myra shared old songs of Vernia, songs about the time when rivers still ran wide and bright. Tomas joined in, adding a steady beat by tapping metal pieces together. Soon the group was singing, human and Vornian voices mixing in harmony. It was not just survival anymore. It was friendship. Days turned into weeks, and the cooperation deepened. The humans taught the Vornians how to purify water using simple filters made of sand and charcoal. They showed them how to turn wind into energy using small turbines. The humans preferred practical methods. They did not rely on large machines, but on simple systems that could be fixed by anyone. One day, while working near the edge of the city, a sudden explosion shook the ground. Everyone ran toward the noise. A fuel tank had burst due to overheating. Flames rose high, and thick smoke spread across the street. Panic filled the air. Aaron and Mira were closest. They tried to pull people back, but the fire spread fast. Then Rena's voice cut through the chaos. Buckets. Sand, move fast. The humans reacted immediately. They formed a chain, passing buckets of sand and foam. The Vornians hesitated at first, unsure what to do. Rena shouted again, "Do not run. Fight it." Something changed in that moment. The Vornians grabbed tools and joined the humans. Together they threw sand and foam over the fire, beating it back inch by inch. The heat was intense, but no one gave up. When the last flame went out, everyone stood covered in soot and sweat. Breathing hard, Mayan arrived minutes later and stared at the scene. No one had died. The damage was limited. The humans were already helping the wounded and repairing the broken pipes. Aaron looked at Rena, his face blackened with dust. "We did it," she smiled. "You see, you fought back. That is the spirit of survival." From that day on, the Vornians began to change. They no longer waited for humans to fix everything. They started repairing old machines themselves. They built new tools using whatever they could find. When something broke, they no longer saw it as failure, but as a challenge. Mira opened a new workshop to teach others what she had. Learned from Tomas and Isla, young engineers gathered there every day. They practiced welding, wiring, and basic construction. They began to speak with pride again. Even the children changed. They played in the streets without fear, pretending to be explorers and builders. They called themselves Firehearts, a name they took from something Tomas once said during a lesson. Humans are fire-hearted, he had told them. The fire burns, but it also gives light. Keep your fire alive. One evening, Mayan visited the human camp. He found Rena sitting on a metal crate, polishing her helmet. The stars shone above, clear and bright. "You have done more for us than we ever hoped," Mayan said. "But I feel this is only the beginning." Rena looked at him. "You are right. The galaxy is not kind. Sooner or later, someone will come who does not bring help but harm. You must be ready to stand on your own." Mayan frowned. "You mean war?" "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe someone who sees your new strength and wants it for themselves. Strength always attracts challenge. That is the way of life." Mayan thought about her words long after she left. For centuries, the Vornians had believed peace would last forever. Now he understood that peace must be protected. Weeks later, the crops in the new fields were ready for harvest. The greenhouses overflowed with food. The people celebrated, dancing and singing under the twin suns. Rena and her crew joined them. Music filled the air, and the smell of roasted fruits and bread surrounded the plaza. Aaron brought Rena a plate of food and said, "Our people call this day Renewal Day. It is the first time we celebrate in years." Rena smiled. "Then remember this day. It means you are alive." During the celebration, Mira gave a small speech. She stood on a platform beside Tomas and spoke to the crowd. "We learn from the humans that strength is not only in machines or weapons, it is in courage and unity. Let us never forget that." The crowd cheered. Children waved small banners made of cloth, painted with the symbols of both worlds. As the night grew quiet, Rena walked away from the camp and looked at the stars. Isla joined her. They are changing fast, Isla said. Yes, Rena replied. They just needed a spark. At that moment, something flickered on Rena's wrist communicator. A signal came through, weak but clear. She frowned and tapped the screen. It was a coded message from their ship in orbit. Captain, came the voice of the pilot, we are detecting movement in the outer system. Unidentified ships approaching from deep space. Rena's eyes hardened. How many? 4, maybe 5. Their energy signatures do not match any friendly faction. Ila's smile faded. Pirates? Possibly, Rena said. She looked toward the lights of the Vornian city, where laughter still echoed. Tell the crew to prepare. We may not have much time. The stars above seemed peaceful, but she knew that peace never lasted long in the galaxy. Down below, the people of Vornia slept soundly for the first time in years. Unaware that new danger was already on its way, the Deathworlders had come to teach them how to live again. Now they would soon have to teach them how to fight. The suns over Vornia shone brighter that season. The air was warm, the crops had started to grow again, and laughter returned to the settlements. Humans and Vornians worked side by side, sharing meals and stories at night under the glowing sky. After months of hard work, the world that had been on the edge of death now breathed again, but peace never lasted long in the galaxy. One evening, as the twin moons rose, the scanners in the Vornian control tower detected strange signals. A fleet of ships was entering the system from the outer rim. Their energy signatures were not friendly. They moved in tight formation, engines roaring like predators closing in on prey. Maheen. The Vornian Council leader stood beside Captain Rena in the observation dome. The stars looked peaceful, but the data on the screens told another story. They are not traitors, Mayan said quietly. Their signal codes match no known ally. Rena studied the readings with a calm face. No, they're not traitors. Those are raiders. Probably scavengers who move from one system to another, taking what they want. Fear spread among the Vornian leaders. Their ships were weak, their defenses light. They had rebuilt their energy plants and farms, not their weapons. For years they had avoided violence, believing peace would protect them. Now, that belief faced its greatest test. Within hours, the raider fleet sent a message. A voice echoed through the speakers, harsh and mocking. This is Captain Drone of the Vexer clans. Vornia holds resources we require. You will surrender your energy reserves and ships. If you resist, your world will burn. The council room went silent. The Vornians looked to Mayen for guidance, but even she seemed uncertain. Rena folded her arms, her expression unshaken. They won't stop with your energy reserves, Rena said. They'll take your people as workers, your machines, your crops. That's what raiders do. Aaron, the young engineer who had grown close to the humans, stepped forward. Can we fight them? Rena looked at him. We can try. We don't have many ships, but humans are used to fighting against the odds. Mayen turned to Rena. If we fight, many will die. If we surrender, we may survive, but as slaves. Rena's eyes narrowed. Then it's not survival. It's just a slower death. The room was quiet again. Then Mayen nodded. We will stand with you, Captain. The humans began preparing. Their small ship, the Spearhead, was not a warship, but it had sturdy armor and adaptable systems. The humans worked all night, converting mining lasers into makeshift defense turrets and reprogramming drones into automated scouts. Rena's team moved quickly and efficiently. Each human seemed to know exactly what to do. They didn't panic, didn't argue. Aaron followed them everywhere, learning their methods. He saw how they used whatever material they had. Pipes became cannons, old solar panels became sensor arrays, and damaged transport drones became decoys. They really can turn anything into a weapon, Aaron whispered to himself. Amazed, when dawn came, the raider ships appeared in orbit. Their dark hulls reflected the twin suns, giving them a menacing glow. They sent one final message. This is your last warning, Captain Drawn said. Submit now or face destruction. Rena sent a single reply. You want to fight? Come and try. First battle began, high above the planet. The raiders launched fast attack ships toward the human vessel. The spearhead dodged between clouds, using the planet's atmosphere to confuse sensors. The raiders fired plasma rounds, but Rena's crew moved like hunters in a storm. "Release decoy drones," Rena ordered. Several drones shot forward, emitting false signals. The raiders fired at them, wasting energy. Then the spearhead turned sharply and fired its converted mining lasers. The beams cut through the wings of 2 raider ships, sending them spinning down into the lower atmosphere, inside the control center. Mayen and the Vornians watched the battle on the screens. The humans fought with such bravery that it felt unreal. Their small ship danced among giants, never still, never predictable. Aaron clenched his fists, wishing he could help. "They are fighting for our world," he said softly. "They fight as if it is their own," Mayen replied. But the raiders had more ships, larger ones with heavy cannons. They began to bombard the planet's surface, targeting the main settlements. Explosions lit up the horizon. The ground shook. Rena's voice came through the coms. "They're going for the farms. We need to distract them," Aaron spoke into the mic. "Captain, we can overload the energy towers and make it look like weapon fire. That will draw them." Rena smiled. "Do it. Just don't blow yourselves up."
Oh, yeah.
Aaron and a team of engineers rushed to the towers. They reprogrammed the energy cores to emit bright plasma bursts into the sky. From orbit, it looked like artillery. The raiders shifted their attention toward the fake signals. That gave Rena the chance she needed. The spearhead swooped in low, fired its modified cannons, and disabled one of the enemy cruisers. The explosion was massive. The rest of the raiders pulled back to regroup. For a moment, there was silence. The Vornians cheered, but Rena knew it wasn't over. The raiders were wounded, not destroyed. They would return, angrier than before. She gathered her crew. "We can't win in open space," she said. "But we can use the planet to our advantage. This world has storms, heat, radiation. We'll turn it all against them." Her second officer, Joro, nodded. A true Deathworld strategy. They spent the next hours setting traps. They used the desert's electrical storms as natural defenses. They placed heat mines near the canyons where raiders might land. They even reprogrammed the water condensers to release clouds of vapor that would confuse enemy sensors. When the raiders turned, they met chaos. Lightning storms flashed across the skies, their ships lost radar contact, and every landing zone became a trap. Human soldiers and Vornian volunteers worked together, striking from cover. Using small weapons and improvised tools, Rena led from the front. She carried a plasma rifle and never backed down. Aaron saw her fighting through the dust, shouting orders, helping wounded soldiers. She moved like someone who had seen many wars and never forgotten why she fought. The battle raged for hours. One by one, the raider ships began to fall. Their leader, Captain Drawn, tried to retreat, but Rena's team had already hacked into his navigation system. His ship drifted too close to the atmosphere, caught fire, and burned like a falling star. When it was over, the sky cleared. Pieces of wreckage rained down, glowing in the sunlight. The people of Vornia stepped out of their shelters. Looking up at the sky that had once brought fear, but now brought victory, the humans returned to the capital. Their ships scorched and damaged, but still standing. The people gathered around them, cheering and offering food, flowers, and thanks. Mayen approached Rena and bowed slightly. "Your people have saved us. We owe you more than words." Rena shook her head. "You don't owe us. You stood and fought beside us. That's what matters." Aaron stepped forward. "Captain, why do you risk so much for others?" "You could have left when they came." Rena smiled, her eyes tired but bright. "Because that's what humans do. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. We learn that life means fighting for others, not just for ourselves." Aaron nodded slowly, understanding more than words could express. The humans were not dangerous because they loved war. They were dangerous because they refused to surrender that night. The people of Vornia held a great gathering in the central square. Fires burned, music played, and voices rose in celebration. Humans and Vornians sat together, sharing stories of the battle. The stars above glowed softly, as if watching them. Mayen raised her voice. We called to the stars for help, and the Deathworlders answered. We thought they came from a place of ruin, but now we see they carry the strength of all worlds within them. Let the galaxy remember this day. Let it remember that courage can come from the harshest of worlds. The crowd cheered. Rena and her crew looked around, humbled by the warmth of their new friends. Aaron whispered to Joran, "They call you Deathworlders, but I think you bring life wherever you go." Joran smiled. "Maybe Deathworlders are just those who know how to survive so others can live." As the celebration went on, Rena looked at the twin suns rising again, painting the sky gold. The world of Vornia was safe, at least for now. But she knew there were many more voices out there, calling into the dark, waiting for someone to answer. And when they did, she promised herself that humanity would be there, because that was who they were. They're fire-hearted from the death world. The ones who heard a cry for help and turned it into a song of hope. The battle was over, but the sound of it still echoed in the hearts of the people. The skies of Vornia were clear again. The smoke had faded, the ground had cooled, and life was returning to the soil. Broken machines were being repaired, and the ruins left by the raiders were slowly turning into building sites. The Vornians had seen war for the first time in generations. Yet instead of being crushed, they stood taller than before. They had learned something powerful from their human allies. Strength was not in the body, but in the spirit. For the first time in many years. Mayan walked through the capital with a smile. Children ran in the streets again. Laughter filled the air. Humans and Vornians worked together, repairing damaged structures and planting new crops. The bond between the two races had grown deep during the hard days of defense. At the main square, Captain Rena stood beside her ship, the Spearhead. It looked battered and scarred from the battle. Several panels were still missing, and parts of the hull were burned. Yet it still stood strong, just like its crew. Aaron approached her with a group of engineers. His clothes were dusty, and his eyes showed exhaustion, but his smile was bright. "We finished repairing the power conduits. The southern farms are running again," he said. Rena nodded. "Good work. You all did it faster than I expected." Aaron laughed softly. "We learned from the best." Rena looked around at the busy square. "You people have come far. A few months ago, your planet was fading. Now, you're rebuilding faster than most colonies I've ever seen." Mayen joined them, her long robes fluttering in the warm wind. "We had good teachers," she said kindly. "Without you, our people would not have survived the storm or the raiders. You would have found a way. We only helped you see what you were capable of." Mayen smiled, but her voice grew gentle. "You are too humble, Captain. You and your crew gave us courage when we had none left." As days passed, the Spearhead's crew continued to help. They built stronger shields around the settlements using salvaged parts from the raider ships. They also taught the Vornians how to use new farming techniques and energy storage methods. Rena led training sessions every morning. Humans and Vornians stood side by side, learning how to defend themselves, how to repair systems under pressure, and how to survive harsh environments. The humans never held themselves above anyone. They treated the Vornians as equals. Aaron admired that most of all. He spent hours with the human engineer Mira, studying reactor cores and learning human repair methods. Mira was patient and kind, explaining every step. One day, as they worked under the shade of a broken solar panel, Aaron asked, "How can you stay so calm even when everything is falling apart?" Mira smiled. "Because panic never fixes anything. When things go wrong, you breathe once and start thinking of what can still be done." That's what Rena always says. Aaron nodded thoughtfully. He began to understand the real strength of humans. It wasn't their machines or weapons. It was their way of thinking. They refused to give up no matter how bad things looked. A week later, the Council of Vornia gathered again. This time, the meeting was not about survival, but about the future. "We have rebuilt most of the main colonies," said Mayen. "The people are ready to begin a new age. But we need to decide how to connect with the galaxy again. We cannot stay hidden anymore." Rena was invited to join the meeting. She listened as the Vornians discussed trade routes, alliances, communication networks. When the room grew quiet, Mayan turned to Rena. "Captain, what would you suggest?" "You know more about the galaxy than we do." Rena leaned forward. "If you want peace, you must be strong enough to protect it. The galaxy respects those who stand on their own. You have the skills now, and we can help you build ships that can defend your borders. But most of all, you need to believe that you deserve your place among the stars." Mayan nodded slowly. "We will follow that advice. And we hope that when we send out our first message again, you will hear it." Rena smiled. "I'll make sure Earth hears it." The Council agreed to begin work on a new project, a fleet of Vornian exploration ships. Humans would help train the crews and share their technology. Together, they would make sure no one would ever try to take Vornia's freedom again. As the days turned to weeks, life became peaceful again. The crops grew well, the water flowed clean, and the people grew stronger. Children from both species played together in the open fields. They often pretended to be captains and explorers, flying imaginary ships among the stars. One night, as the twin moons rose, Rena walked along the edge of the desert. The wind was warm and dry, carrying the scent of new crops. She looked up at the stars, thinking about the worlds beyond. Aaron joined her quietly. For a moment, they stood in silence, watching the sky. "You'll be leaving soon," Aaron said softly. Rena nodded. "We have to. There are other places that need help. Other calls for aid waiting out there." Aaron looked down. "Vornia will miss you," Rena smiled gently. "We'll miss you too. But you don't need us anymore. You have everything it takes to build your own future." Aaron hesitated, then asked, "Do you think we will ever see each other again?" Rena looked up at the stars. "The galaxy is big, but it has a strange way of bringing people together. Maybe one day, when your ships reach deep space, you'll find us again." The farewell ceremony took place 2 days later. The entire city gathered in the main square. Flags of Vornia and Earth fluttered side by side. Music played softly through the air. The people had built a great stone arch at the edge of the spaceport. On it, they carved a simple message: "To the fire-hearted who answered our call." When the spearhead crew walked through the crowd, everyone cheered. Children ran forward holding flowers and small models of ships. The humans smiled and accepted them warmly. Mayan stepped forward and raised her voice. "When we sent our SOS to the stars, we did not know who would answer. We feared silence, or worse, cruelty. But the ones who came were not destroyers. They were survivors. They showed us that strength is not born from power, but from hope. We will never forget the Deathworlders who gave us back our future." Rena bowed slightly. "And we will never forget the world that taught us peace can grow even from ashes." The crowd cheered again. Aaron stood near the front, watching as Rena and her crew prepared to board the ship. His chest felt heavy, but also proud. The humans had come from a world full of danger, and yet they brought light to others. Before entering the ship, Rena turned back and waved. "Remember, Aaron, the stars belong to those brave enough to reach for them." Aaron nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "We'll reach them. I promise." The engines of the spearhead came to life with a soft hum. The ground shook gently as dust swirled around the landing area. Slowly, the ship lifted from the ground. The people waved, their eyes filled with both sadness and joy as the spearhead rose higher. Sunlight reflected off its metal hull, making it shine like a silver star. The ship climbed through the clouds, breaking free into the vast sky. Mayan stood with her hands clasped. "They came from a world of storms, and they leave us with calm skies. The stars will remember them." Aaron stood beside her, looking up until the ship disappeared from sight. In his heart, he carried the lessons the humans had taught him: resilience, courage, and the belief that even in darkness, light can be found. Months passed. The spearhead continued its journey across the galaxy, answering other calls, helping other worlds. On Vornia, the new fleet began to take shape. The first Vornian-built starship stood ready for launch. Its hull bore a symbol of 2 hands joined together, a human and a Vornian hand. The launch ceremony was simple. Aaron stood as captain of the new vessel named Unity's Dawn. Before boarding, He touched the ship's hull and whispered, "For the fire-hearted." When the engines ignited, the ship rose smoothly into the air. The people below watched in silence, then broke into cheers as the ship vanished into the sky. Vornia had entered a new age, one built not on fear, but on courage. Far across the galaxy, in another sector, Rena received a short transmission. It carried a familiar code. When she played it, Aaron's voice came through, steady and proud. "Captain Rena, this is Aaron of Vornia. Our first ship has launched. We are no longer alone among the stars. You once told me that strength means nothing if you never share it. We will carry that truth wherever we go. Thank you, Deathworlders. The stars will remember you." Rena smiled as the message ended. She looked out of the ship's window at the endless stars. Her second officer, Joran, turned to her. "Was that from them?" Rena nodded. "Yes, they're flying now. The fire we shared still burns." Joran smiled. "Then we did our job." Rena looked ahead into the dark sea of stars. "No, our job never ends. There are still voices waiting to be heard. Let's go find them." Spearhead turned toward the next unknown system, its engines glowing bright. Behind it, the stars shimmered softly, as if whispering in gratitude for the ones who never turned away from a cry for help. The Deathworlders continued their journey not as conquerors, but as keepers of hope, and in every world they touched, their story became legend.